not make it this evening, and so we now have the pleasure of recognizing and welcoming one of our own, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a former council member of the Law Society of Kenya, Senator of Nairobi County, immediate former Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement, and because he's one of our own, and several of our members wanted us to give someone who has been committed in regularly attending the annual conference year in, year out, the role of chief guest. We are very delighted to welcome to speak to us the Senator of Nairobi County. Ladies and gentlemen, let's rise and give it up to Honorable Edwin Sifuna.
Combination sound. Roma. Vanavata tesunjendie. Habuse. Mwaka no kava yenye ulira. Habuse. Ira ino no chenda semeresia. Habuse. Kandoli de mwene walu plano. Habuse. Vasare vanje sungendie. Habuse. Oyo kuno were umanyanga. Habuse. Wana wamai wa mwene na kundoma. Habuse. Ele uno mwene ya yamanya. Habuse. Varuya vanje sunjendie. Habuse. Bango kino were umanyanga. Habuse. Embane ngozile we umbere. Habuse. Ele mwene yesi ali uvera. Habuse. Uriako wa mwene na kundoba. Habuse. Bandi na bobosi wasima. Habuse. Bandi kino were uwananga. Habuse. Namosi no were ulamanga. Habuse. Ababiba no were ya mamanya. Habuse. Aiba no were ya mamanya. Habuse. Unakula wayo na wacha sejenge. Wale.
Asante sana. Asante DJ. Asanteni, naomba tuketi kwa sababu ya muda. Tafadhali kwa heshima kubwa. Naomba tuketi. Naomba tutulie.
Ladies and gentlemen, kindly let's resume our seats.
To the President and members of the LSK Council, the Senior Council present here, and other members of the Senior Bar, my colleagues in the legal profession, hamjambo tena. I hope it won't be too inappropriate if I ask kama munaniona vizuri. Huku munaniona? Mimi ndio Sifuna. I managed to drag my wife to this event. My lovely wife, Didi, is here. And the condition was that I was not going to engage into or in any politics tonight, lakini kawaida mabibi lazima wadanganywe ndio wakuje. I also want to recognize members of my class from the University of Nairobi. Wako wengi sana hapa. Wamejaza meza ya VIP. Mheshimiwa Rais, naomba unisamee. I am extremely humbled that you have extended this great honor to be your chief guest at this year's annual conference. I want to confirm that this is my first time in that capacity, if you don't count Harambe's. When I was admitted to the bar in 2008, I did not think that in a short span of 18 years, I would be standing on this stage addressing such a distinguished crowd as chief guest. I have seen people online saying, Nikama LSK has run out of chief guests. Siku hizi, they just invite anyone. But the theme of this year's conference is business unusual. Legal practice in the era of AI. So, of course, you had to go and get an unusual person to be the chief guest. Sindio? Mujipigie makofi. I want to thank President Kanjama and your council for the great work you have put into this conference. I have had the opportunity to sit in some very interesting sessions in the time that I have been here. When the president of the East Africa Law Society, Ramadan Abubakar, made his presentation and disclosed that the ELS had been gifted a 10-acre piece of land, the person I was seated next to aliniambia tuchukue tu kama mtungi ya gas. I will not mention their name. President Abubakar also invited us to the AGM in Zanzibar in October. But of course, he knows Mama Suluhu and I are not the best of friends. And even he can't guarantee that I can safely attend that AGM. I enjoyed the presentation by Engineer Daniel Cherono from Kenya. I strongly agreed with him when he said that the future of infrastructure development needs lawyers, and that infrastructure development must be undertaken within budget, and most importantly, whilst upholding the rule of law. The only problem I had with his presentation is that he limited what the role of lawyers should be, namely understanding infrastructure financing and reviewing FIDIC and PPP contracts. The good engineer should know that as lawyers, we aspire for more. Those who have followed my politics know my position is that development must be undertaken in a constitutional context. I have argued that roads and stadia are nice, but the constitutional values of human rights, democracy, freedom, rule of law, equality, and social justice are a higher priority. Everything must be done within the framework of those 6 values. Increasingly, as I move around the country, I hear Kenyans telling me that ours is a software problem and not a hardware problem. Now, Kenya has had 5 presidents. Kenyatta 1 was, what was Kenyatta 1? I don't quite recall, but I hear he did anthropology at the London School of Economics. Moi was a teacher, we all know that, sindio? Kibaki was an economist. Uhuru, I hear, studied political science and economics, although they just call him my sponsor these days. William is a botanist, which, for your information, is my favorite brand of gin. So, I am asking myself, if indeed what Kenyans are telling me is right, that we have a software problem, that we need to retrace our steps back to constitutionalism and the rule of law, that they want a government that respects human rights and human life, and that highways and stadia must be built at cost and in compliance with the rule of law, who better to give the job than a member of this noble profession? So, Engineer Cherono, we are sending you with a message to your fellow engineers. It's time for lawyers to be in charge of the country, not just reviewing FIDIC and PPP contracts. Ours is a software problem that only true believers in constitutionalism and the rule of law can fix. After that, we will call you to build the Mombasa Gate Bridge over that Likoni Channel. As I conclude, let me speak to the sub-theme of the conference, which is of particular interest to me as a political leader in this country, and especially as we approach the 2027 general election, the perennial question of electoral justice in Kenya. I was happy to see my friend, the IBC chair, Erastus Ethekon, although he wouldn't allow any photos because, as you know, being seen with Sifuna has consequences. Those who have been foolish enough to shout, Mimi Ndiye Sifuna, have lost quite a bit. Just ask the Senator for Vihiga, the Honorable Osotsi, who was removed as Deputy Party Leader of ODM and as Chair of the County Public Investments Committee in the Senate. You ask the Honorable Wamboka, who was removed as Chair of he was the Chair of the Public Accounts Committee in the National Assembly. Ask the Honorable Perpetuum Ponjiwa, who was removed as the Chair of Education Committee in the Nairobi County City Assembly, for attending my rally in Taita Taveta. So, for those of you who are eager for a photo with me, be very careful. That photo might cost you quite a bit. But Chair Ethekon, I have gradually come to accept the responsibility or the weight of expectation on my shoulders, but I suspect that you and your commission bear an even greater burden. You have to deliver a free, fair, verifiable election as required by our constitution. There are no two ways about it. I saw him quite exasperated with some of the questions that came from the members during his session. I can assure him that Bomas will be 1,000 times hotter. The pressure, as they say, only increases from now on. We want you to get the procurement of technology and ballot papers right. To do this, you must carry all stakeholders along throughout the process. We want technology from a reputable company and from a country that holds its companies accountable for their foreign practices. Hiyo tu, the rest mutuachie sisi tutafanya. Kuingiza hawa mawakili box haitatushinda. After all, you all swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and a campaign that promises to pull the country back to our constitutional values should be the easiest to sell to a crowd like this. I appeal to all members of the LSK to help us on this one. We need your support, and I am asking for your support as the bar. This is your cause. I am hoping that you will come along with us. If all goes well, we will reconvene here next year, not for an annual conference, but for a state function. Munanielewa nyinyi? I take this opportunity to invite all LSK members to our engagement this Sunday in Homa Bay County. Ndio tuonyeshe hawa watu ya kwamba Kenya hii tayari mumeamua kwamba tamu ni ngapi. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.